Welcome back to The Breakdown, everybody. I'm your host, David Canellis, as always. This morning, we're looking at a few quick stories that are hanging around from last week that are yet to be resolved. We chatted a lot about strategy in Sailor and Bitcoin last week, but there's a lot of other things happening in crypto that warrant some attention. Number one, we're looking at Binance versus the EU and its quest to be regulated under the MiCA set of rules and regulations for exchanges and VASPs, as they like to be called in Europe. We're looking at the latest on that. We're also going to be chatting about ChatGPT 5.6 and Mythos with the US. The US is really putting a stranglehold on the latest and greatest models coming out of the two big frontier labs. So checking in on the latest on those. And also Facebook is getting into prediction markets, not just building its own prediction markets that doesn't really seem like it's for cash right now. It's for like points or something, or like funny money. But also it really wants to cut deals with Kalshi and Polymarkets. So I'm wondering what the Zuck is really up to, and again, if it's just too late to the meta already, so to speak. All right, okay, enough out of me. Let's just get into it. This is The Breakdown.
Nothing said on The Breakdown is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are opinions, not financial advice. Hosts and guests may hold positions in the company's funds or projects discussed.
Okay, so European Binance users are being urged to take their funds and assets and everything else off of the platform. Binance, this is from the Financial Times on Friday. Binance has told its customers in the EU that it will stop providing services to them from next week because it will not be licensed to operate in the region, in a significant setback for the world's biggest crypto exchange. So these rules come into effect from July 1, which is on Wednesday. And I mean, Binance would have had to secure licensing from at least one EU member state before that January 1st deadline. But unfortunately, it hasn't been able to do that. Binance's application, it had tried going through Greece. Binance's application in Greece for a block-wide license was rejected last week, less than a fortnight before the deadline comes into force. And the exchange now plans to apply through France, where it has previously been in talks about a license, according to people familiar with the matter. But as the Financial Times reports, even if they do somehow convince France to award them a license for MiCA, it will come way after the July 1 deadline, which I imagine is super frustrating for customers in the EU. And if you're basically changing platforms, it would be very difficult to convince them to jump back once the license comes through, I would have to imagine. Binance customers in Poland, Italy, Spain, and France have received emails this week telling them how to withdraw their money from the exchange because the company will not be granted a MiCA license by 30th of June, 2026. And I mean, Binance said, I try not to really pay attention too much to what Binance says because it's always thick corporate jargon that comes out of Binance official statements, in my experience. Binance said the company did not receive a formal decision on its application in Greece, and so took the prudent decision to withdraw the Greek application and pursue authorization in another EU member state. So it's saying that, well, no, the EU didn't break up with us. We broke up with the EU is kind of what it's saying. But okay, everyone's kind of declined to comment. Greece's regulator didn't comment. France's regulator also declined to comment. And I mean, something that Binance is just trying to sweeten the deal. I mean, it's the same kind of thing that it told Malta back in the day when it tried to set up shop in Malta, and then that never really crystallized either. In an effort to win approval from authorities in Athens, Binance committed to hiring many staff and opening an office in Greece while promising to bring billions of euros in investment into the country. Two people familiar with the process said. I find that a little bit, it just makes me cringe a little bit that that's kind of what they're resorting to, but okay. But its Greek application was ultimately rejected because of concerns in many areas, in particular its money laundering controls and whether Zhao passed the fit and proper test they added, or to do with the months that he spent in prison and the billions of dollars worth of fines that Binance has had to pay the US for its lax anti-money laundering controls is what the reason is effectively. And yeah, I mean, of course, you have a bunch of crypto exchanges, taking the opportunity to dunk on Binance for kind of screwing the pooch on its MiCA licensing effort. We have Bitpanda. So I thought, let's just take a look. Number one, which crypto exchanges are licensed within MiCA? And it's not everybody. It's not like all the other crypto exchanges are licensed while Binance is being hung out to dry. This is just from CASP, tracker.eu. CASP is the MiCA license. So yeah, I mean, this is the list of crypto exchanges that have either MiCA licenses or their license is in progress right now. We of course have Binance still in progress. Upbit, the South Korean exchange, BitGet is offshore. Their licensing is still in process. So is MEXC, HTX, Bitfinex. We know that Tether effectively had the same thing done to them, that no longer regulated crypto exchanges in the EU can support USDT or any kind of Tether products. So Bitfinex obviously isn't that worried about it either. BingX, Bitmart, LBank, and some of the kind of the lesser known crypto exchanges are all kind of have their licensing in progress, it seems. But the ones that are licensed, that includes Bybit, OKX, Coinbase, Gate, KuCoin, Crypto.com, and Kraken. So I can imagine just from that list, the Kraken is really going to be the one that users flock to. But I mean, that's just my speculation there. I mean, OKX and Coinbase, they look poised to capitalize as well, as does Bybit. So it's not only Binance that is struggling, but of course Binance is by far and away the number one exchange for trading volume, although that has a lot to do with perps and so on. So speaking of that, let's take a look at the actual spot volumes. So here I have the Blockworks Research Portal. We've got a centralized exchange dashboard. And we're just going to look at these spot volumes by exchange. So let's take a look exactly how big Binance is compared to all of its competitors. Let's just do weekly, actually, so we can get to kind of latest numbers, because we're almost at the end of the month. So for the past couple of weeks, Binance has been processing close to $50 billion worth of spot trade. By far the biggest. I mean, number two is Bybit with about $14 billion worth of volume over the same time. Then it's Gate.io and MEXC. Coinbase is only about $10 billion. So Binance is processing about 5 times the volume that Coinbase is, and about 3 or 4 times what Bybit is right now. So like in percentage terms, Binance has about 1/3 of the market share of the global crypto exchange spot volume as tracked by Blockworks Research. And it is kind of holding steady. I mean, about a year ago, it would be close to 40%. At the start of 2025, again, close to 40%. And you have to go all the way back to 2024 to see it over 40%. So a slow slide in Binance's global market share, I suppose you could say, especially if we go compared to, say, 2022, when Binance was close to 60%. Oftentimes, 2/3 of the global spot volume occurred on Binance. So Binance has been steadily losing ground to its competitors as they gain strength as well over the years. I suppose that's to be expected just with the growth of digital assets overall. But I mean, this MiCA stuff is definitely not going to help Binance in that department. For futures activity, I think it's about similar. Let's just double check that. So this is going to be futures volume by exchange. Let's have a look. And these are, of course, only the centralized exchanges. It doesn't count Hyperliquid and so on. But in weekly view, what are we looking at? Binance has more market share for futures, but I mean, not by much. We're up to about 40% market share for Binance in the futures volume on the centralized exchanges. OKX is number 2 and MEXC is number 3. OKX with 18% of the market share and MEXC about 11%. So, I mean, are we seeing any major outflows from Binance because of all of this? I mean, the closest that we have for that right now is DeFi Llama, which shows us the outflows in general. I mean, we have this chart here from them. So we can see here on the bottom right, we have some outflow data. And we're seeing, yeah, definitely some outflows, but nothing completely out of the ordinary. I mean, it's actually less outflows than what we were seeing basically on average over the past few months. So it's not like a big outflow, a massive exodus from Binance over this EU stuff. So we have this leaderboard as well from DeFi Llama. And we're looking at, over the past 24 hours, $384 million worth of assets pulled from Binance. Over the past month, it's $1 billion pulled. But I mean, in total, their assets is $132 billion on the platform. So if you lose $1 billion, it's less than 1% of its total funds. I mean, it must be like 2/3% or something like that pulled. So I'm not sure what that tells you exactly. I'm not sure it tells you that there aren't, comparatively that much, that many, high profile traders that really need a micro-regulated exchange in the form of Binance to operate. So it means that basically, you don't really need to have a lot of big fish exiting Binance, because either they're not on the platform to begin with, or they're not in the European Union, which I would have to say is probably the in the latter case, that's the reason why we're not seeing such huge collapse in Binance flows or anything like that. I mean, just in general, I mean, of course, Binance would like to retain all of its European Union users, and I would have to imagine that at some point it is going to get a micro license and resume. But for now, I'd just say this is something to watch for Binance. I mean, if this drags on for the rest of the year and they can't secure a micro license, then I suppose we might see some real damage done to its assets kept on the platform as European Union users go, well, okay, it's definitely not getting a license now. I will pull my assets. But, I just have to imagine that they have most of their user base, their high profile user base, is probably outside of the European Union. I would have to imagine. So whether this truly impacts Binance at a material level, at least right now in the interim, I'm not too sure. So just something to watch, and let's see if Binance can figure itself out within the EU. I'm sure it has friends somewhere, but it might be an uphill battle for the meantime. So, okay, on to the next one. Okay, so both these stories actually came out on Friday on the same day. So it's the White House is very busy with its nitpicking of Frontier Labs. I'm going to style it like that. I mean, this is from TechCrunch on Friday. The Trump admin releases Anthropic Mythos. So it's not even Fable that we're talking about. We're talking about the big bad boy Mythos, to be used by more than 100 US companies and agencies. So 2 weeks into the ban that caused Anthropic to pull its powerful cybersecurity-oriented models, Mythos 5 and Fable 5, from the market, the Trump admin is softening its stance. It is now allowing Anthropic to make Mythos 5 available to more than 100 specific U.S. government agencies and companies, including allowing the non-American employees at those organizations to access the models, both Semaphore and Reuters reported. This list also includes Anthropic's own non-American employees, who were included in the original ban that forbade non-Americans from accessing the models. I mean, this is Howard Lutnick. He says that he is determined that appropriate safeguards are in place to permit certain trusted partners to access the Claude Mythos 5 model. Apparently, he wrote that to Anthropic's chief compute officer, Tom Brown, on Friday. So, I mean, yeah, okay. So Howard Lutnick has determined that there are safeguards in place. Okay, buddy. So, I mean, in terms of like Fable 5, the one that the general public is meant to have access to, that has not been addressed at the moment, which I have to say is a little bit frustrating. Anthropic on Friday publicly acknowledged the progress in an X post running since June 12. We've been working closely with the US government to restore access to Claude Mythos 5 and Fable 5. And yeah, it can be redeployed to a set of organizations. Okay. And we're continuing to work with the government to expand access to Mythos 5 and make Fable 5 make Fable 5 available for general use again. Okay, so that's Anthropic. At the same time, we have OpenAI trying to also release its latest model, GPT 5.6. So this is now in The Guardian. OpenAI is staggering the release of its latest AI model after a request from the US government in a move echoing the launch of Anthropic's Mythos product. The company behind ChatGPT signaled its dissatisfaction with the move, saying that doing so keeps the best AI tools from users, developers, enterprises, cyber defenders, and global partners who need them. OpenAI said on Friday it was launching GPT 5.6 with a small group of trusted partners. This is what they said. As part of our ongoing engagement with the US government, we previewed our plans and the model's capabilities ahead of today's launch, OpenAI wrote in a blog post. At their request, we are starting with a limited preview for a small group of trusted partners whose participation has been shared with the government before releasing more broadly. It just gives me the creeps. Anthropic and OpenAI's close I mean, OpenAI is at least kind of, saying some stuff, stating its disquiet with the US government approach. It said, "We don't believe this kind of government access process should become the long-term default." And I would say fat chance of that. We are effectively now in a draconian regime when it comes to AI development, and it kind of really takes a lot of the shine off it for me personally. However, the company said it believed taking this short-term step was the strongest path to broader availability in the coming weeks as it works with the White House to develop a vetting and deployment framework for new models as required under Trump's executive order. Oof. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is also probably the stupidest part of this whole thing is that GPT-5 comprises three versions: Sol, Terra, and Luna, which I know I'm late to riff on this, but I mean, could you have picked better names for this? I mean, I suppose, my gut reaction is that it just shows you how big crypto is in the world, or how little it is comparatively to how AI sees itself. That ChatGPT, that Sam Altman can go ahead and name it Sol, Terra, and Luna, and just kind of assume, well, yeah, I mean, I know there's crypto that are. Does he know? I mean, apparently he has WorldCoin and is so involved in WorldCoin, wink, wink, that he must have his finger on the button in terms of crypto. But I would say that he's just like a who gives a crap. We're just going to name it these because whatever we do is going to be way bigger than anything happened in crypto. So who kind of cares what we name it? OpenAI said GPT 5.6 Sol was its strongest model yet, but did not cross a cyber-critical threshold under its internal framework for measuring dangerous AI capabilities. It added that Sol was better at helping people find and fix vulnerabilities than reliably carrying out end-to-end attacks. So apparently Altman says the government would be approving access customer by customer during this preview period for GPT 5.6, and that it would be released more generally a couple of weeks later if the process went well. So, I mean, to me, this is clearly the beginning of the end in terms of, this free-flowing access to the bleeding edge of artificial intelligence and compute. It has to go through the bottleneck of the US government. And I mean, I know that there are a bunch of Chinese models that are starting to rival the performance of these Frontier Labs models, and particularly like we still open source modeling is also growing at the same rate. But I ranted about this the other week that it would be great if every home could have their own offline AI model, so it didn't have to route through the US government, so we could at least use the capabilities that are out there. But of course, this is quite resource intensive. It's quite expensive, to actually have enough compute within your own home to actually run these super powerful AI models. So it's just, I mean, I hate to be a downer for all this stuff, and I understand that so many people are perma bulls on AI because it's going to revolutionize, all the companies that you're invested in the stock market. So it has to be great. But I mean, what can I really say about it? In that it's obvious. It is very clear that AI tooling is going to become a government-approved tool for software engineering and perhaps maybe scientific research, as long as it's not dangerous in the eyes of national security interests and so on. We're just going to have this watered-down intelligence suite that is going to be permanently monitored by the US government. And so anything you do with it, it has to be government approved, which, yeah, I mean, it's just... already that just sounds so corny to me. And the same thing happened with crypto. Hopefully you can see this as well, in that we have freedom technology in the case of crypto. You're meant to be able to tokenize whatever you want. You're meant to be able to launch whatever company you like and raise money from whoever investors that you like. And you're not just restricted to accredited investors. This was what it was until we had rules and regulations being forced down the throat of crypto entrepreneurs and crypto operators and so on. And what we are left with is a watered down version of crypto. And it is still powerful in the same way that compute and intelligence is still powerful as well, even if it is, strictly controlled by the US government. Of course, these things are powerful, but you've got to admit that it takes some of the shine and some of the edge off of this technology as it is. I mean, it happened to crypto. Of course, Bitcoin itself is unfettered by the wants and needs of the US government and so on. It's impervious to regulation at some point, but you as an individual, you are not free of rules and regulations just because you use Bitcoin. Obviously obviously crypto has figured out how it can operate within all of these bounds, not just set by the US government, but also like Interpol, the FATF. It has figured out how to exist, and entrepreneurs and users have figured out how to either not draw attention to themselves or at least operate within the bounds that are set by these organizations. And AI is going to go through the same thing, but it is pushing the coolness factor out into the edges. And that's personally where I find the most interesting. But I mean, again, of course, I mean, I don't just want to say this is something to watch, but I'm just already coming to terms with the fact that, your AI usage is going to be heavily monitored and restricted from now on, if it is not already. And we're seeing, I mean, what choice does Anthropic and OpenAI have but to follow what the US government is telling them to do? What this is going to create is some kind of like product that you can buy that is like a self-contained compute unit for your space. But of course, because of all the chip shortages and the RAM costs and everything, I mean, it's just going to be expensive as well. But I'm not too sure what alternative we have at this point, but to figure out how to have self-sovereign AI as kind of all this gets worse. I mean, the AI models are going to get more powerful, and the US government is going to become more paranoid, primarily driven by the marketing of the Frontier Labs themselves. So perhaps, I mean, there's some kind of equilibrium that you can strike where the Frontier Labs stop saying that their models are just so powerful and going to change the world, and then the US government freaks out and forces them to restrict themselves, degrades the freedom that you have as an individual, compared to the companies and institutions that are on they're on the whitelist of the US government. I mean, it just sounds all so creepy to me. Hopefully, I mean, perhaps you're thinking somewhat similar, but this is just how I feel about this right now today. Okay, so on to the next one. Okay, so very quickly about Meta trying to get into the prediction market game. We're going to be taking a look at the current state of prediction markets as well in a moment. So this is from the New York Times last week, and we've had a follow-up since then. I mean, the New York Times was reporting that Zuck had recently dispatched a small team at his company to create a smartphone app similar to Polymarket and Kalshi. According to two employees with knowledge of the matter, users would not wager money, and the app would probably rely on a video game-like point system instead. One person said that the company had not ruled out the eventual use of real money betting. The app is internally referred to as Arena and would function independently from Meta's social networking apps, which include Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. Meta aims to grow the app by leveraging its large social networking audience and directing them towards using it. The effort, which insiders characterize as experimental but a top priority, is part of a broader push by Zuck to create new types of apps based on emerging social behavior online. Arena is one of a handful of apps that Meta is trying out. Others include one called Meta Photos, another standalone app which would create new types of media using AI, the employees said. Meta declined to comment. So only a few days later, apparently Zuck has urged his lieutenants to explore partnerships with the popular prediction markets Polymarket and Kalshi as his company builds a similar app. So Zuck has asked Meta executives to talk with Polymarket and Kalshi, though it is unclear how partnerships with them might work, said the three employees who spoke with the condition of anonymity. Zuckerberg's target demo for Arena is 18 to 34-year-olds. And is aiming to reach at least 100 million monthly predictors for the app. Arena is being positioned as a place where people can bet on sports, culture, entertainment, politics, and finance against friends and family. Executives have called it an app designed for everyone, they said. So I suppose that is somewhat of a differentiator in that, if you're just trying to bet against your direct circle, then it is somewhat better than trying to bet against all these degenerates on Polymarket and so on. So I suppose that is something, it's the zinger of prediction markets, which I suppose is it's to be expected in some way. Arena is being tested internally and may not be released, the Meta employee said. If it is released, it will be initially a standalone app to see if people are interested in using it. Meta plans to eventually integrate parts of Arena into Facebook and Messenger, including by adding prediction bets into group chats, the Reels video product, and ephemeral stories, and inside Facebook's popular news feed. It is unclear if Arena will incorporate real money betting, but Zuck believes betting behavior could lead to increased activity across Meta's apps. Users may engage in conversations and debates on Facebook and Messenger about the bets, or share more often if their bets are correct. Meta may also incorporate game-like qualities, including leaderboards, putting users in competitions with one another. Personally, I just don't see a future in this particular iteration of it, because especially if it's not betting with real money, if it's just points and stuff, I mean, I can almost guarantee you're not going to get much engagement with it. But it is definitely a gateway into real money betting at some point, because, if your mother can bets right on the Super Bowl, whatever it is, and sees that she's killing it on the points, I mean, she's obviously going to start predicting for real money at some point. I would bet. But okay, so we're just to put that aside, and that, this whole thing is that is Zuckerberg late to the party again, because it was late to the party with the metaverse, and then the metaverse never really took off at all, and now it's since then Meta is going through the roof. It's hit an all-time high. So whatever damage the Zuck did with its quest to make the metaverse a thing, that has completely unwound. I'm sure you already know. But let's just take a look at the latest in prediction market stats. Okay, so here we have the total open interest for Polymarket, and we can see there's actually falling of late. Overall, we have peaked. We haven't quite hit an open interest peak from around the last US election. Open interest peaked at about $510 million worth of open interest back then. The most we've gotten since then is about $494 and that was at the start of June, so the start of this month. Since then, we've been steadily falling. Now we're at an open interest of 310. So, it's not like Polymarket is seeing amazing growth right now. It did see amazing growth at the start of the year and heading into March, but since the end of the first quarter, it's basically trended sideways and now dipping. Active wallets is also on its way down. There's about 135 active unique wallets per day right now. In April, there was about 215,000. Transaction counts are also falling, but it's not a huge collapse or anything like that. But obviously, like, we've had the NBA championship wind up. It's interesting that open interest is falling, even though the World Cup is still kind of going on and finalizing over the next few weeks. But okay, that's Polymarket. Let's have a look at Kalshi. Okay, and we're looking at Kalshi, and we're seeing a similar trend. Although Kalshi's open interest was more recently at its all-time high. It set an all-time high last week of $1.5 billion worth of open interest. So Kalshi far and away the winner in terms of Kalshi versus Polymarket right now. But its open interest has been dropping. It's now under $1 billion. So, over the past week or two, it's dropped by about 50% its open interest. Its notional volume is also dropping, but still much larger than Polymarket right now. So this is probably something to do with the World Cup effect, I would have to say. So, Polymarket struggling to retain growth, but I guess it's too early to say whether Kalshi is also struggling to retain that growth. We're seeing category market share, exotics explode for Kalshi. I have to imagine that exotics is like parlays. Yeah, I would bet that this has to do with parlays. So Kalshi is really kind of killing it on the sports betting front, and parlays are obviously big with sports betting. So that's my hunch anyway in terms of why Kalshi is kind of exploding still. I'm not sure what we can read exactly from that. There is obviously still a lot of interest in prediction markets, and Meta is indeed, trying to do something to enter that game, but it seems a very, consumer normie friendly way through to get through the whole prediction market meta. But I suppose that's to be expected, considering Facebook is Facebook and whatever. So of course you're gonna have some normie friendly implementation of prediction markets from Meta. But this is about all I'm looking at this morning. We're gonna be checking in on the strategy stuff later in the week, just to see the status of everything and what moves strategy is making and so on, and maybe some other more exciting stuff will happen throughout the week that we can chat about later on. So that's about it from me. I hope you have a great day. And as always, look after yourselves. Goodbye.